when you don't fill your cup, when you don't feel your emotions, when you don't allow yourself to be who you really are, all of that is like, imagine you have a jar inside your body and then you start putting things inside. But when the jar is full, that's fermenting. One day that's going to explode, you know? So you try to put something else and it pop.
Welcome to Openly Spoken. I'm your host, Celia Antonio, growth mindset and mindfulness mentor who loves to lead with quantum self-love. In this podcast, you'll get to hear real and unfiltered stories covering topics around spirituality, womanhood, healing, love, relationships, and more. This podcast is for spiritual, ambitious women who want to live a life that they are in love with and who are looking for a more aligned way to do things, because the world loves to tell us women what we, quote, should be. So think of this podcast and my work as your guide to bring you back home to your truth and what makes you uniquely magical. Feel free to connect with me over on Instagram at self-expressbabe, where I periodically share video content from the podcast and where my DMs are open for you to connect with me. I'm so grateful that you chose to listen in today, and I invite you now to set an intention, sit back, relax, and receive the transmission coming to you through Openly Spoken. Thank you for being here. Now let's dive in. Hello, welcome to Openly Spoken. My name is Celia and I am your host. I am so excited to bring to you for the month of Pride this mini season 3, where we are featuring people who are part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Because if you don't already know, I'm self-expressed babe on Instagram, and being able to express yourself authentically has a special place in my heart. Really special place in my heart. Authenticity, freedom, and harmony are my main values. And this is something that everyone deserves. Everyone deserves to show up in their truth and still be loved for it, because we're all worthy for love. But before I go off on a long tangent, I want to introduce you to this week's guest, Raquel Martos. Raquel is an international hypnotherapist and emotional resilience coach for female entrepreneurs, helping them find freedom from their mental suffering so that they can achieve their highest potential. She is a certified EFT and Emotional Resolution practitioner, NLP life coach, and hypnotherapist. So Raquel uses a range of accessible tools and alternative healing modalities to resolve emotional blocks. And in this episode, you're going to hear Raquel's journey of her coming out. We have this amazing little deep dive into emotions and living in the capitalistic world and just showing up as our true self. And I just got off of this call like 10 minutes ago, and it was such a beautiful conversation. I'm so grateful to be here, to be able to create this podcast. And I'm so grateful that you are here listening and that I can give you this transmission. And I hope that you who are listening, I hope that this opens and softens your heart. I hope that if you are out there and you are struggling with your own self-expression, with your own sexual expression, with your own identity expression, I hope that this episode gives you the love and the representation and the mirroring and the support that you need to go out there and show the world the magic that is you. So without further ado, let's have a chat with Raquel Martos.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for being on Openly Spoken. And I'm so excited to have you here to celebrate Pride Month, because my heart really goes out to anyone who is struggling to express their true self, anyone who feels that their true self is wrong. And there's so much stuff that I really wanted to bring a voice to this issue and to this community and amplify your voices this month. because that's so important to just be yourself, you know? So anyways,
I totally agree with you.
so let's start by you introducing yourself to people who are listening, and then we'll go into your story.
So my name is Raquel. I'm a hypnotherapist and I'm an emotional resilience coach. And I'm a lesbian. And I'm very happy to be here today.
Yay. How did you get into, I'm curious if your coming out and your questioning your own identity led you to the modalities you use now, like hypnotherapy, and I know you use NLP and stuff like that. Is that, does that have do those intertwine, like those journeys of you finding that stuff?
Actually, yeah. When I came out, it wasn't voluntarily. I was definitely outed, and I was around 14, I think. So long, long time ago. And obviously things were not back then were not as they are today. And I always felt like this kid that, I mean, I wasn't bullied or anything, but I felt always like a stranger. Like I was completely different from my peers. I was interested in everything that was a little bit more mature for my age. Didn't connect very well with the other kids. And then I always wanted like something else. I was looking for something more. And when I discovered I was gay, was by a supposed to be friend who basically asked me a lot of questions until she realized that I didn't like boys. And then she told the whole school, which was like a huge issue for me at the time because I've been always very private. I was a bit shy back then. And this was like a big turmoil in my life.
Yeah,
So I
when you're
had,
14, that's like a big deal that like everyone is knowing even like anything about
yeah.
that part of your life. Like we don't want anyone to know. That's such a like insecure age too.
And
Gosh.
for me, it was like because I'm from a very small town. So my experience was okay, if I stay here, I'm gonna die alone and sad. And
Mm,
now everyone knows because my town is so small. So literally everyone knew. And it also got to my mom's ears. So I had no secrets for anyone back then anymore. So after that, I decided I was not able to stay in that place anymore because I was looking for, a relationship and discovering and exploring my sexuality. So I decided as soon as I could, I would move out of my hometown and I went to Madrid to study.
mhm.
And it was great. But all my friends were straight or gay men. So there was never a time for me. So during this whole time, I had to deal with all the emotions that I was having and try to accommodate because it's still men are more visible. Straight people can go everywhere. You want to have fun, you go to all the bars, you can find other people, to meet. And it's very easy, but there was never a time for me. And I had to deal with a lot of frustration and also feeling a little bit lonely because I had very good friends, but I never had anyone that I could share my experiences with that had the same experiences that I was going through.
Mhm.
So then I thank God for the internet, and then I found this forum, and I went on a meetup with a bunch of gay girls. There were so many, and it was great. Like I had a blast. It was one of the best nights of my life, and I made a lot of friends, friends that we still friends today.
Oh, that must have been
So
amazing to finally be like, yay, people like me exist.
yeah, it was really fun. And it was even more fun afterwards when I started discovering that this other world existed where,
Mm-hmm.
it was all girls around, and then we got to share our experiences, the coming out stories, how different it was for each of us. If, Most of all, discovering that I wasn't alone anymore. So that gave me a sense of empowerment. Like, it's okay, I'm fine. I have a right to exist. Where before I was always like on the side, and mostly like, I didn't have the right to ask for what I wanted. So when I was going out with my friends, there was nights where we would go out to gay bars for men, or we would go to regular bars. So there was never the lesbian bar night for me. Never.
That didn't
So
exist in Madrid? Like,
oh, it did,
oh, okay.
definitely.
Okay.
Very like very big, very nice, super fun. But just my friends didn't go there. So when I met this group of lesbians, it was fantastic, because then I got to be in places where people were dressing like me, people that moved like me and talked like me, people who were having the same experiences. And for the first time in almost, I think I was like 20 almost, I felt like, oh, I belong, finally.
Aww.
So that was good training for what had to come afterwards. But I think it definitely shaped my life. Yeah.
So when you were in your town and you said that your mom found out because like the gossip kind of like traveled, how did your mom react?
She was very cool about it.
She was cool about it? That's good.
Yeah. She had this thing that we need to talk. So I was avoiding that for a long, long time, until there was a 31st of December, and then I was doing homework, I think, in my room, and she just came and said like, oh, we need to talk like now. But she was very sweet about it. Of course, I was super embarrassed and like, oh, I don't want to talk about this. Like, this is like, I was like, oh, feelings, ew.
Yeah.
Being a teenager, but also being like a little bit of a cat, because I didn't have that connection to other people, right? So for me, love was something that was off the table. So when people tried to give me love, I was like, no, 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 no. So it was definitely it was a very awkward moment. But she was totally cool about it. And after that event, she still let me bring girlfriends to the house, still not boyfriends.
No
Didn't make any sense.
boyfriends, but girlfriends are allowed.
Yeah, which was like very strange for me, but I was like, well, whatever, I don't
Yeah.
care. If I can bring girls, that's good.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. And
That's
she was
good.
also very supportive of my relationships. And so, yeah, she's been pretty cool.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm glad that you had
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Thank you.
because some people that I've reached out to share their story on this podcast, like their stories are a little bit, they didn't have that support from their family. So they're like, I don't know if I want to share it, but I'll talk on your podcast about something else.
Yeah, it must be
So
really hard.
yeah. Yeah.
Because your parents are supposed to be the people that love you the most. And if you don't have
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
life is double hard, I assume.
Yeah. That's what breaks my heart the most. Like,
Yeah.
I grew up in Los Angeles, so it's very liberal here. Like there was never any like homophobia where I grew up. And then after high school, I moved to Miami, Florida, which is that was where I first like my family, we used to go there for vacation from the time I was like 15. We would go there every summer. And I remember my sister and I would see like men holding hands and we're like, what is this? This is cool. This is different. And then like we learned that that's what gay was and we're like, cool. But there was never any like resistance or judgment because of where I grew up. So when I hear about people who come out to their parents, like the two people that are supposed to love you unconditionally and they get kicked out, like it breaks my heart, especially because like my husband and I, like I've talked to him about that before. And I'm like, if when we have kids, if they're in school and one of their friends gets kicked out for being gay, like I would love to have them live in our house, but you can't. It's against the law. It's like kidnapping or something.
Yeah, the parents have to surrender them, I think, first.
That's
Yeah.
so heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and it's totally, in my opinion, stupid from the parents, because
Yeah.
they're losing incredible people.
Yeah.
There has been so many gay people all around the world that have achieved enormous and really important things. So I just think it's their loss, you know.
Yeah. True. And even if not, like you don't have to achieve anything to be worthy of being loved. Like
No, totally,
you are their
totally.
like these people were their babies, and just because they don't fit the mold of what they wanted them to be. That's part of why I wanted to do this, because like some people told me like you're going to lose followers, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like I am here to open people's hearts more. Like honestly, with
Mm-hmm.
everything that I do, everything from every Instagram post, anything, I'm here
Yeah.
to spread more love in this world. So yeah, we went off on a little tangent. So you, where you grew up, your whole town found out, and then when you were 20, you said you moved to Madrid, and then now here you are. You found finally this community of people that were like you. So
Yeah.
what was the growth? What was your growth and your journey like from there? What came up for you?
So I started going out more with these new friends, and then I got to live more adventurous life. We went on trips, we went out a lot. I got to experience a lot, and also my own sexuality, because before I didn't really have the chance to meet a lot of people or to explore much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just having this group of friends made me have this safe container. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew I was safe in there. So it was definitely a good group. If you had your heart broken, or if you
Mm,
had cool stuff to share, they were really supportive and a really uh, fun group.
yeah.
And we're still friends till today. And actually, when I had to move from Spain to somewhere else in the world, I was debating to go to Chile because they speak Spanish, or to London,
Mm,
because some of these friends were there.
mm-hmm.
So I moved to London with them, and that's where my biggest chunk of spiritual growth journey started. Definitely, my spiritual growth came from not feeling, again, feeling out of place, being completely lost. I had way too many jobs. I met way too many people. Definitely, I had a lot of partners back then, but none of them were sticking. I didn't. None of them were like what I wanted, and I was very much like, um, sorry, like I was very much really lost, because I was in a country that I honestly didn't like very much, and then I didn't really speak the language so well. Thanks to my partner, now I'm a pro. I didn't really like the country. My friends were very supportive, but I was always missing something. And then I discovered coaching through a podcast, and then I started reading, and it was really interesting. And I think I got hooked. Then I
Mm-hmm.
made a friend who's a coach, and then I started like diving into the whole thing, and everything started making sense. So I just went to this massive journey to meet my inner self, who I
Mm-hmm.
really am.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from being this super tough girl, no feelings, no nothing,
Mm,
no feelings, mostly because I thought that I was about to suffer if I felt something. So I was trying to protect myself because
yeah.
of the past. um, but what I discovered was like, in feeling my emotions was the pathway to healing.
Mm,
So then the more I knew, the more I wanted to do, and then something big happened that was the explosion to the next stage of my life, who brought all the growth and made me who really I am today.
mm-hmm.
because after that I went to a depression. And then that's where I learned all the tools that I'm teaching now. And I went from not being able even to leave my house for days, not even to go to the supermarket, crying, terrible. Like it was like going to the supermarket was a whole drama. Going to work was a whole drama. And then within 3 months, I was completely recovered, being able to travel, went back to work. So for me, that was a big call, like, oh, okay, so this is it. I've tried all the jobs in the world and none of them were really important. So like I didn't really feel like, oh, this is it, you know. And then with this, I felt like I had to share with the world. This is too good not to share with the world. People are struggling, and when you struggle for months or years, it's really hard. So why suffer for years when you can heal that in a few months? So here I am today.
That's awesome. I'm celebrating you, your healing, your growth.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Which modality did you discover first, and what was it like?
It's called, so first I discovered coaching with NLP.
Okay.
And then I discovered emotional resolution, which is somatic healing.
Okay.
But you don't need to move. You can do it while you're sitting down, which is great. And then I found hypnotherapy. And then by applying all these things onto myself and practicing in others, I got like high on other people's success. So I started feeling like, oh, okay, this is cool. You know, every time I had a case study that came back, I slept the whole night. And before they came because they couldn't, or people that had a lot of anxiety and they didn't have anxiety anymore, for me it was groundbreaking. Like, okay, I can do this for a living. And then I decided to change careers and go in a different direction, and definitely it's been so worth it. And about what you were saying before about losing followers for doing things like this, I was very hesitant at the beginning about sharing my sexuality. Like to me, it's very obvious that I'm not straight. I always say that I have it written in my forehead, mostly because the way I move around, like, is really obvious to me. But some people don't have really a radar, so they don't know. But I'm always very open and very vocal about it. With the things that are part of my set of beliefs, I always share them because I really don't want people that don't fit that to follow me. I'd rather have less followers and spread the word to the right people than having more people that are going to spread hate. Because the more hate you bring into the world, the worse it is. So yeah, it was pretty scary though. I never shared photos of my partner until way later. But once I did it, definitely it was very much liberating. And even if you may think, but it's been so long, like you've been out for more than 20 years, well, still, you need to still keep coming out every single time to every single person you know. Because people always...
That must be so annoying. I've heard
It
that
is
from other
very...
guests. Yeah.
It is very annoying because, I mean, people don't do it in a malicious way, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it's really obvious. So whenever I go somewhere, I always say, I have a girlfriend, you know, same way as straight people talk about their husbands or their wives or partners, because then it's not 3 months in that it comes into a conversation and then it's awkward. Like, say, if you know from the very beginning, then that's fine. Then we can do all the gay jokes and we can have this camaraderie that otherwise I would be like, oh no, but what if this is gonna be weird, or but yeah, it's true, it's a little bit annoying because it's like, oh, there we go again.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's
I
not
have
like
a girlfriend. Yes.
yeah. And it's not like straight people have to go around being like, this is my sexual preference, like to everyone that they meet, like, just so you know.
Yeah. Just so you know, I'm straight, huh?
Yeah. And
Like,
it's like,
never said anyone.
and that's the
Yeah.
wild thing about how most of the world reacts to people not being straight is like, it's none of your business.
It's like, because at the end of the day, I don't really care, you know, like
Yeah.
when people ask, oh, and it's like, but it's not really important to me who you are sharing your life with,
Yeah.
unless that person is, you know, bad to you or something.
Yeah.
When we
All
have,
that matters is that we all get to be happy.
yeah, exactly. So,
Mhm.
especially now that's becoming more mainstream and you're seeing more things on TV and you get to see reactions. Like I was watching a show the other day, and there was one of the characters is now with someone that is non-binary,
Mhm.
and it was like this huge thing.
Yeah.
And I could see how uncomfortable this person was, because this woman is used to be straight,
Mhm.
or at least that was the way it was presented on TV. And now that it's obvious that she's not, she needs to go through her own process. But they
Yeah.
just dissect the whole thing during the program instead of giving her the time. You always need some time to process and to make it public. You need to
Mm.
build it up, feeling
Yeah.
confident and comfortable with it, and then sharing it. Because if you don't do that, it kind of, it's like getting naked, like someone just taking off your clothes in the middle of the street. That's literally the feeling of it.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think it's very important that this thing that you're doing is really important. More queer people sharing their experiences is really important. Representation is really important.
Mhm.
I mean, I wish there was some representation 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Not that wasn't all sad, and because it's true that all the movies were they all were sad. All the
Mm.
lesbians on TV were dying, they were miserable, they were
Mm.
sad, terrible
Yeah.
things happened to them.
Yeah,
uh,
like when I was in high school, I can only think of two examples of media where there were people who were queer. One was a Canadian show called Degrassi.
haven't watched that one.
You haven't heard that? And then one was a musical called Rent, which was really sad. Like they were like dying.
Oh, I haven't watched that one either, but I remember coming back from school and going to the blockbusters, and just, you know, there was this movie and I took it to my room. It was a CD, so I watched in the computer with the headphones, you know, all secrecy. But the character died. It was all desperation and hardship, and every single time
Mm.
they were all sad movies. I think it's been many years later when you start seeing happy characters, maybe with
Yeah.
the L word. I think the
Yeah.
L word was one of them. Queer as folk
Mhm.
and the L word, I think, were pivotal, especially the L word for
Yeah.
the lesbian community.
Yeah.
That was the first time that you saw so many different type of lesbians on TV, and they were successful and happy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think it's more accepted, like in your experience, do you think it's more accepted to be a gay man than to be a lesbian? Because I feel like that's a little bit more, that's been popular for longer. Like I remember being in middle school and having like my whole thing, I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was a kid. And many of the designers that are big are men, and they're like obviously gay. And there's
Mm-hmm.
no problem with that.
I think, like with everything, men are more visible,
Mm.
especially white men.
Yeah.
They are everywhere, and they are the stereotypical. All women want to have a gay friend that's gonna do the hair, the makeup, and all this kind of stuff. It's like you have a friend, not a slave. You know, your friend is not the person who's gonna do. You pay someone to do that for you,
Yeah.
but you don't want to have a friend just for that. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think it's as women we are just more invisible,
Yeah.
because something that I actually have experienced is when, especially when I go out with my girlfriend, because she's more feminine, they look at her always.
Mm.
I had times where if I was more feminine, then men looked at me. But if I wasn't, they wouldn't. So very interesting, right? It's like you get erased.
Yeah.
When you go to places, it's like you're important if you are this stereotypical image of what a woman is or what a man is, but a lot of gay men fit that image. But if not, they have this other image that's fully accepted, but you won't see at the Met Gala or any, the Oscars. You still, how all the people that go there, how many of those are non very feminine lesbians? How many? One, two? That I don't remember her name, but the woman from Orange is the New Black.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember her name either.
But apart from that, I've never seen people like this type of women just going to these places, being super visible, very famous. You have some people that are
Ellen
kind
DeGeneres,
of
maybe.
But she's like the first one, right? So you have her, so she can do that because she's, let's say, the icon, because she was the first one fighting for that on TV. But then if you have I don't know, like, even like for me, it was very refreshing when what's his name, when Elliot Page, before that, was for me very refreshing. Or like someone who's more tomboyish is going to these events, like all things are changing. And the fact that as a trans man, he's being so supported and still having all this community around, being like, you stay where you are. You're not going to be erased from Hollywood. Like, that was one of the fears, I'm assuming, for him, but also for the people that are supporters. We need more representation. Because right now, for example, you have a lot of trans women, but not many trans men. You see, if you come from a woman, you don't exist.
Huh. That's so true.
It's very sad, though. Because we're great.
And also what you said about being more feminine, and what's coming to mind is someone named, I think her name is Grace Highland. I found her when I used to have a TikTok. I had to delete TikTok because I have no discipline with TikTok. But she came out to her father before hitting puberty. And instead of going through puberty, going from a boy to a man and then having to transition from a man to a woman, she went through puberty, like she started her hormone therapy and everything as she was going through puberty. So she went from boy to a woman, and she looks so feminine. Like, she doesn't fit the stereotypical image, what people think a trans woman is. And because she's so feminine, like, she gets such a big following and stuff, which is great, because she's going back to representation. Like, she's representing a different portion. But it's just interesting that, like, because she's so feminine, she's getting all that attention.
We as a society, we tend to praise the things, the people that are looking more real. What is more known to us. So it's like when you go different country, you go to the supermarket, you are more prone to choose something from the shelf that looks like what you buy at home. So in this case, that's just an example, right? But for people, it's like, oh, nah. But then if you have someone who transitioned later on in life and is not looking so much not the same as this person that you describe, this person tends to be more bullied or treated differently. And I think that's really sad, because at the end of the day, inside, they are who they are, and the way we look doesn't necessarily need to impact the way we're treated. But it helps definitely when you are like a cis-passing. It's definitely helpful. There was someone at my school who was very bullied as a little gay man or gay boy, and now she's a beautiful woman. Same example as you described before. All the people that bullied him as a boy now want to get in bed with her.
Oh gosh.
Which I think is such an irony.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for her because
Yeah.
I saw what they did. So it wasn't nice.
Yeah.
And that, she managed to pass all of that and just going and growing as this beautiful woman and living her true life. You need to have guts to do that. And I think because of the bullying and what people say, because people love talking and having an opinion about everybody's life, it makes it really hard for people that maybe want to do that later in life. And a lot of people that are not on social media, they just disappear for X time and then just reappear. Where it should be a journey that maybe would be nice to be their companion, be there for them, be supportive. Because I always think if being gay is such a lonely road, or has been such a lonely road for me and so hard in so many moments, that must be terrible, because you're not battling with other people only, you're also battling with your own body, which is like, you cannot remove yourself from that. You live inside the body. So I think it's really tragic that we still 2022, we still having to fight for this, even with this in the UK now, they were trying to, they removed conversion therapy for homosexuality, but for trans they kept it. And that's so stupid. Just remove the whole thing. Like, why are you gonna punish these people? What have they done? They deserve to be free too.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Very sad. We're going backwards.
Yeah, it really is nuts that we live in 2022, and in general we are still looking at people based on what they look like, whether it's your sexual expression, whether it's your race. Like there's these things that we're focusing on, when really, like, if you're someone who has gone through a spiritual awakening and you come to the truth of like, what, I'm like gonna cry, like what human beings are.
Yeah.
Like I wish the world knew that. Because then we realize that all that stuff doesn't matter. It's just things that are used to get us to buy stuff.
Yeah.
And used to make us good consumers. And
it's like I'm gonna be a little bit unpopular, but capitalism has divided us, suppressing our true being and self-expression. And no wonder people are depressed. Like, if you go to work and for 10 hours a day and you have a long commute and you don't really have time to spend the money you earn, or even worse, when you don't earn enough, so you just work to survive, how are you gonna be able to explore what is possible for you? How are you gonna dive into your trauma to fix it? You're just on autopilot, drinking on the weekend, getting into fights, getting into easy conversation. And if the only thing that the media is feeding us is reality, drama, war, fights, all very negative things. So where is the space for love? Where is the space for people to understand each other? A place of conversation when everyone can be themselves without being criticized. having also some support. For me, I think the system is broken. And I think most of people, especially the people who don't want to hear about self-growth or, being spiritual or whatever you want to call this,
Yeah.
they are just so trapped in the hamster wheel that they're not allowing themselves to go and look farther than that.
Yeah.
But if you think about how you were a few years back and the person you're now, like, yeah, I've watched reality and whatever, and I've been judgmental as well, but now I'm like, no, why do
Yeah.
I care? I
Exactly.
like what people do with their life is not
Yeah.
it's just when it's affecting you or your community. That's why I don't understand all these new bills and all these laws trying to go backwards. Like, for me, like, why do you care? Why
Yeah.
do you care? Why is so
Yeah.
important for you? But yeah, because when you go and live your own life and you're happy with your people and the things that you have and your own experience, your living experience, then you don't need to go into that.
Yeah. And maybe like whoever the people are who are in charge of this whole capitalistic system, maybe they think that like if we're all happy and full of love, then we won't buy anything, which I don't think is true. Like we won't buy bullshit stuff, that's for sure. We will still want to have things in our life, but it'll like our spending habits will definitely be different. I just think it's interesting that like the whole system depends on like making us feel bad to buy stuff, making us feel like there's something missing in our life to buy things. And
But that's
like,
how it works.
yeah.
Because how
It's
many
weird.
people do you know that overeat
Mm,
to feel whatever thing that is missing within themselves? People who go shopping
yeah.
all the time.
That
I'm
used to be
sad.
me. I used to go shopping all the time, especially someone who like I studied fashion design. So
All
I
the
was I
clothing.
was in it. I was so in it.
But
And
that, for example, is one of the things that you buy all these things, but because it's constantly that you keep buying, or you so I'm sad, I'm gonna go shopping. I'm happy, I'm gonna go shopping. Same with
yeah.
food. As a reward, I've done so well, I'm gonna eat, or I'm gonna have a glass of wine or a bottle, you know, or oh, I'm sad, I'm gonna drink. And when you think about it, none of these things help, because at the moment when you spend the money and you have the bag in your hand, you may be happy. But as soon as you get home and you put the shoes with the other 70 pairs that you have, and that's it, you're still home alone with your own void.
Yeah.
So I think the solution, capitalism found they created a problem so you can find your own solution. But for me, I think love, it would be the answer. More love, more understanding, more community. We are social beings, whether we like it or not. And the fact that now everything is also online and not having that touch or that physical connection with other people, like hugs, are really important. Seeing people, having the proximity and touching them, in the hi, and you touch the shoulder or whatever, but that kind of stuff is really important for us to feel good as human beings.
I can see why you do the work that you do.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your work and where people can find you? And then we'll go into, I like to do a little rapid fire questions at the end.
Okay.
Because it seems like talking about your work now aligns with what everything you just brought up.
So I work with emotions because we have been taught to suppress the way we feel, so we can keep going to work, keep being in autopilot to be able to be productive. You go to work, so you can produce, you earn money, so you spend, that wheel. But many times people feel, how many people do you know that get very sad or very anxious on Sunday?
Yeah.
So
Because of work on Monday.
that's a clear sign. I have many friends that, but Monday they're miserable all the way. Thursday they're not so miserable. Friday they're really happy. They drink all the way, as much as they can. Saturday hangover, but they go out again. Sunday, big anxiety. That's no way of living. And then when you don't fill your cup, when you don't feel your emotions, when you don't allow yourself to be who you really are, all of that is like, imagine you have a jar inside your body and then you start putting things inside. But when the jar is full, that's fermenting. One day that's going to explode. So you try to put something else and it pop, and then big anxiety coming, or then you get a rush, or you get acne, allergies, all of that, psychosomatic things. Stomach pain is also terrible, and is also very one of them. How you say it? Like, it's very recurrent thing. A lot of people have stomach problems because they are not happy. So when I found this work, and that you can literally teach your body not to react to your emotions, then your life is easier, because while you figure it out, you still need to go to work. But if you hate your coworker, one day you're going to have a full-on panic attack at work, and that's not going to help you, is it? And then you're going to feel even worse the day after, because then people have seen what happened to you. So so then what I do is to teach people to come home to their own feelings, to be able to feel the emotions and see that nothing actually happens. And the fear is the biggest thing, but the fear is an illusion. Normally our imagination is goes so much further than reality. So it's that time when you have a rush and you're like googling it, oh, it's something really bad, and then the following day it's gone. So it's like, never Google your symptoms.
Yes, that's good advice.
And especially nowadays that a lot of people are suffering from anxiety, when for some people it's so difficult to work on their emotions, because they are too big, too much. They're too scared that the dragon is going to be let loose, and they're scared of what's going to happen afterwards. But what I would say is, when you have the help from someone that's guiding you and going with you in the journey, they have the dragon on the leash. So, it's like, okay, you open a little bit and a little bit and a little bit until, okay, let's first the head, seeing everything, but it's less overwhelming than when you do other type of therapies where you have to talk about the dragon all the time, again and again and again. I don't really talk much about the origin of the trauma or what it is that caused it. I'm always curious, I investigate, but I can help you heal something, an anxiety that you have today, for example, even if the root of that anxiety is coming from 20 years ago. We don't need to go to 20 years ago. We can heal that and fix it and make it definitely much better, working on what happened today or yesterday. So that's a huge, for me, it's really makes a big difference, because a lot of people are very reticent because they don't want to go and investigate what happened 20 years ago because it's too painful. But with these tools, it's great, because you can also, with hypnosis, you can go back, you can rewrite your story, you can let things go, you can be in charge, you can do a lot. As far as you have some imagination, you can do amazing things with hypnosis. And it's not anything like you see on TV or in YouTube.
With the with
Yeah,
something going back and
I
forth. I
don't have
know.
a clock or
That's
anything.
what I thought hypnosis was too. And then when I first did it, I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of like meditation a little bit, but like with visualizing.
Yeah, but because you go so deeper into the relaxation, what you do is you shut down your conscious mind and open the subconscious, because we like to think we are in charge, but the one who's driving the car is the subconscious, really. So just by changing the way your subconscious, the content of your subconscious is how you can change the way you think, the way you feel. It's very interesting. I definitely recommend it. If you want to find more information about this, you can find it in my Instagram account at Raquel Martos, or my website, www.raquelmartos.com.
I'll put that in the show notes. And
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I also love what you said about how like we don't need to talk about or bring up like why things happen, because like with my experience with mindset work, for example, or even journaling, like when we think about why something happened, then we get lost in the story, and like we re-traumatize ourselves, or we get very identified with like, oh, this is just how I am. And yeah, so I think the work you're doing is very much needed.
Thank you so much. I really love it. So
yeah. So now at the end, I like to do some rapid fire questions. The first one is, what does self-love mean to you?
Accepting the way you are.
Love it. With any of these questions, if you want to elaborate more, feel free to go ahead. Just because it's rapid fire doesn't mean you have to do a short answer. The other question is, finish this phrase. The way to my heart is...
The way to my heart is... the way to my heart is acts of service. I love when people
that's your
do
love
things for
language?
me. Yeah.
Love that.
Definitely. Coming back home and seeing that things have been done. That's like, actually, so I'm like instantly, oh my God, love this. I love that person so much.
And then, when do you feel most alive?
Oh, when I feel the most alive. I can say, okay, so I have two answers for that. One of the times where I feel the most alive is when I am doing something outdoors, like going for a hike or achieving something with my body. That really, it gets me every time. But also every time that my clients achieve something that they wanted to, then I feel so happy and so hyper that it takes me, sometimes I need to calm myself down because I was late at night, I need to go to bed, but I'm just like, you know.
I love that. That's amazing that you have work that lights you up like that.
That's how I knew it was the one. For now, at least.
Yeah. Okay. And what is your favorite part about being queer?
That I get to live a different life. That my life is not cut by a cookie cutter pattern, and everything is different. I get to choose. I don't have that pressure to get married, have babies, settle down. We have dogs. Well, we have one dog, but we're gonna have more, and we're definitely not gonna have kids. So everyone understands, right? Because it's like, oh, you're queer, so it's fine. Yeah, I think my life has been really way more interesting just because I'm gay.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
I love that. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. And is there any like last message you want to give to anyone who's listening who might be like struggling with who they are and sharing that with the world?
It's worth it. Be brave. It's worth it. Even if it's hard, it's so worth it.
Yeah. Love
Yeah,
it.
thank you so much for having me. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Openly Spoken. I know that there's an abundance of content online, so I really appreciate you giving me your ears today. If this episode shifted something for you, please share this with a friend and/or write us a podcast review if you're listening to this on iTunes so that more people can find this. If anything shifted for you from this episode that you want to have a conversation about, I would love to hear from you. Just send me a DM over on Instagram at selfexpressbabe, and that is in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.